Hi, I'm Bella Gaffney, and I'm the guitar player from the Magpies.
Okay, next. I'm Holly Brandon, and I'm the fiddle player from the Magpies.
Hi, I'm Polly Bolton, and I play mandolin, Irish bouzouki, 5-string banjo in the Magpies, and I sing as well.
I'm Sarah Smout, and I'm the cellist with the Magpies.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was physical was the 5th of June, and then digital was 10th of July. Well remembered on both of those dates. I'm very impressed.
Even I don't know that.
So it's almost like brand new, I would say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was really I got really interested in the name, like tidings. It's like means like not piece of news, but the news, So how did you end up with the name? What's the purpose of the name for the album?
So a tiding. Oh, do you want?
You go.
A tiding is it's the collective noun for a group of magpies, and so that's why we kind of landed on that name. There's quite a lot of interesting words to describe a group of magpies. So there's some really bizarre ones. There's a tittering and a gulp of magpies, a murder of magpies, but we felt like tiding was the best for an album. So that's why it's called that.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. And then you have 10 songs and instrumental ones, and then with the lyrics as well. So do you have like a plot going on with the songs during the album, like they used to do the albums in the old days, that you really have a long story going on there? Or how would you describe the album in a whole?
I wish we did have a plot.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. The next one, guys, we're gonna need that.
I think the concept album is the second album, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've only really been playing together as a band for a couple of years, and so when Bella and Polly first started as a duo, they had all this material that they were already playing, and so then me and Holly came along and sort of added our parts to those songs and tunes, and Holly's also contributed a set of tunes to the album as well. So that's it's sort of like our debut material, as it were, as a band, isn't it? It feels like kind of still really fresh and new. Like as a band, we're sort of coming up with new ideas and like ways to work with each other as things go on, aren't we? So yeah, maybe album 2 is going to be a concept album.
Yeah, it's a collection of traditional songs. So there's one English traditional song, The Two Magicians. There's an Irish traditional, and then there's some traditional tunes as well, and a Gillian Welsh cover, and then there's songs written by me and Polly too. So it's quite an eclectic mix of stuff.
I think it's always been important for us to try and balance songs and instrumentals as well, because obviously I have come to the band as primarily an instrumentalist, as Holly and Sarah have. So I think it was really important for us to make sure that we got the tunes in there as well as the songs, and hopefully I feel like that probably reflects the makeup of our live set as well, kind of 60-40 songs and tunes.
Yeah, I think it also kind of represents, we've got quite a wide range of influences, from kind of Celtic bluegrass, all the way up to kind of Balkan influences. So we've tried to, I think, throw all of those into the album as well, so it kind of does reflect the whole of the music that we play.
And are all the lyrics traditional in the album at the moment?
No. So I think the songs in the album, Polly wrote the song Golden Girl.
Yes.
And I wrote the song Run River Run and No More Tears. And then there's another song, Rock of Ages, which is the Gillian Welsh song. It sounds like it's traditional actually, doesn't it? But it's not. It's written by Gillian Welsh. Yeah.
Okay. So you've made the lyrics and then the music for all those songs? Because I thought first that a Golden Girl, that it's traditional, but it's not. Wow.
No, I wrote Golden Girl.
Wow. That's amazing, because then actually I went to the Google and I tried to get the lyrics just because I couldn't get totally the story. So if you could, Polly, for instance, just to tell in short way the whole story of the Golden Girl, because I got really interested of the story behind the song. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. So I'm from Yorkshire, which is a really beautiful part of England, and I actually wrote this song while I was staying in a particularly beautiful bit of Yorkshire, the Yorkshire Dales, which is a wonderful kind of area of countryside and valleys and dales, and it's beautiful. So it's this kind of idyllic landscape which is peppered with lots of remains of what was a huge industry in the 19th century, the lead mining industry, which kind of took over, you know, the whole county. And it was a really bleak, you know, it was a really bleak and hard work industry. You know, they made very little money. There's stories of miners that would knit fabric and jumpers and clothing on their way to work in the mines and on the way back, because they struggled so much to actually make enough money from the mining itself. It was obviously very dangerous as well. A lot of people, a lot of men and boys died in the shafts, and there's lots of stories of children who very sadly drowned in the shafts, you know, when they were working down there. So I kind of wanted to explore that idea of a community that's kind of pulled together, you know, by this very kind of dark and dangerous work that they were doing, in a very isolated place as well. You know, these places would get completely cut off, and still do in the winter when the snows fall. So this idea of a very kind of tight-knit, isolated community that's kind of driven by the need to work, but also kind of tied together by shared experiences of grief and loneliness, and celebration as well, of course. But I kind of felt like these were themes that were really universally applicable to us as well. Now, you know, these are shared experiences, and I was taken with a kind of folk tale that's told to tourists, of a feral child, a young girl who was seen running around barefoot in the bracken, and you could see her and hear her laughing. So it's a bit of an old kind of folk ghost tale. But I think behind every myth and folk tale, there's actually a very real and very lived, very human experience. So I kind of wanted to unpick that story a little bit, and I constructed a narrative of a daughter and a mother who are living together. The mother is a widow, her husband and the child's father has very sadly passed away in the mines. So yeah, I kind of constructed this narrative of these two living in this very isolated, remote community, and kind of explored the themes that I've just talked about. There's also kind of bring some spirituality into it, and maybe the idea of ghosts, and I just kind of wanted to explore those themes in a story that people could maybe relate to, and that may have happened at one point.
How do you see this song now after Corona affected the whole world? And I think that isolation and loneliness, now we see it in a very different way than 6 months ago. So that was something that I just paid attention when I listened to the song, and I thought, what do you guys think about the story now, today, when we are actually connected because of coronavirus here at the very moment?
Well, I suppose there's certainly themes that, you know, we can relate to what's going on at the moment. Yeah, particularly as you say, isolation and loneliness. I think it's more important than ever to try and stay connected, and to try and remember what's really important about, you know, family and community. So yeah, I guess these are all themes that are very, very, very much present in that song. I think music is really important at keeping people together, both in terms of telling these stories, you know, being a vehicle, a voice for these people and these families and these communities, but also in just kind of keeping people buoyed up and keeping people focused and creative. So I guess like sharing music during this time, like releasing the album in the middle of the pandemic, you know, we kind of felt like these were stories that we wanted to get out there. You know, our fans and followers want to hear these stories, and it's really important to give people that burst of light and creativity in what are really dark times for a lot of people.
Thank you. Then I would like to talk about like, how do you make the arrangements? Because you've got such a great variety of different instruments, and you live like totally a part of yourselves. So I think that you can't get together every week, every Wednesday at 5. And so how do you work as a band?
Well, we didn't used to live quite so far apart.
Okay.
Yeah, before the lockdown, Holly and Polly, for the most part, and myself were all living in York. So
Okay.
we would meet regularly most weeks. And Sarah's not too far away, are you? Where are you?
Not too far.
Not too far.
An hour and a half.
Yeah. I don't know, how do we do the arrangements? Each song's different, really, isn't it?
It depends on who brings the first idea to the table, doesn't it? Because obviously we're all composers and arrangers ourselves, but then if, for instance, Polly has a tune, she'll bring it to maybe Bella and Holly first, and then I'll come in with my part, or vice versa. Bella has a song, we all just add our own parts to whoever's tune or song it is initially, and we're all sort of I guess like in charge of our own parts, but then when we come together as a band, it's actually quite natural, isn't it? Like we're all intuitive musicians, and we all play by ear, so sometimes it's just a case of jamming something out a few times and seeing what happens, and then saying, well, actually, why don't you do that bit and I do this bit, and then it's just very natural. There's no sort of rigid there's no rigid procedure that we go through, is there?
No. I think with the debut album as well, I think because it was a great experience in the studio, and I think a lot of the finishing touches, you know, that you can hear on the tracks were very much studio-based processes, which kind of gave hopefully a little extra sparkle. For example, just going back to Golden Girl for a second, the kind of crescendo whispers at the end.
Yeah.
Holly and I worked really late in the studio one evening. I think we were there till about midnight. All got a bit weird, drank too much coffee, and yeah, we kind of wanted to build up this idea of, you know, sanity slipping away with this crescendo whispers that are all
definitely was at midnight in the studio. Our sanity had already gone.
Yeah,
It slipped.
That was actually our sanity slipping away. But yeah, so stuff like that, you know, we actually did that in the studio, and that was an idea that we came up with our producer. And yeah, I think it's really interesting with the creative process. There's lots of different places that ideas come from and different times that that we put them into practice.
Is it mainly then that somebody of you guys takes the credits of the melody and then the lyrics, or as in takes the credit from the music and then the lyrics? I mean, and the rest of the group like makes the arrangement.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we normally do it. Like whoever kind of brings it to the table,
Yeah.
sort of, yeah, we credit them with the idea, and then the rest of us are sort of, yeah, arrangers.
Arranger around the original sort of thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just rudely interject for 1 second?
Yeah.
Am I getting a bit dark?
Yeah.
You are quite dark, yeah.
I'm gonna rectify this.
You can just play some hold music during this bit.
Yeah.
Elevator music.
Exactly.
That's all I can. That's the maximum light that I have, so we'll have to do.
Well, it's kind of noir. You got your red lipstick on, like looking very like sultry there.
Yeah.
With the ironing board. Just
Yeah.
But actually, you haven't been like playing together for so long. So when did you start the recordings for this album?
I think it was just
November.
December time. So it was quite a quick turnaround. Yeah, we went into this. We released a single kind of 6 months before. I think it was that June sort of time.
I can't remember.
God, I got my timings all right. This year's been such like a blur of time. We released a single beforehand, and then went to the studio. Yeah, November, December, and then released the album in June this year.
Did you have all the material ready when you entered the studio, or did you prepare it on the way?
We had most of it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like Polly was saying, we added extra bits in the studio when we felt inspired, because you can't you, in the studio? You can, instead of having 3 extra harmonies, you can have 7 or more. Instead of 1 fiddle part and 1 cello part, you can have a few. So other than adding those bits when we felt inspired, it was all sort of arranged, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It feels like so long ago. What's happened since then? I think.
Go on.
Sorry, go on. No.
There you go.
Well, I think for the most part, our album we're trying to reflect, like you said, the feel of the live set. So a lot of the stuff, we'd been playing live for a while, and we knew that we wanted to get it on the album. So that's what we did.
I was just going back to what Holly mentioned earlier about it being a quick turnaround. I think it's got to be like maybe some kind of horrible world record in how quickly you can turn around an album. Like we were kind of, we had them sent, we had the first pressing like sent literally to a venue that we were playing it on tour. That's how tight it was to the tour itself.
Probably bringing back terrible memories.
Stressful 6 weeks of my life, not gonna lie. Well, the whole process was awesome. But those final few weeks were stressful, but we did it, and we actually
had to beg, but we got
Yeah, Holly was wheeling and dealing with loads of CD presses around the country who can turn them around the fastest, and we did actually manage to get them in time for the tour. But next time I think we'll give ourselves a little bit more lead time, because we kind of ran away with this tab.
When did you get the first mixings, or I'm just trying to figure it out, because it was like 15th of March or something when we got the lockdown, right? Mm-hmm. So you had the album. Did you have it already, like in your hands?
Yeah, we were on. Oh, sorry.
No, you go, Holly.
We were on tour as the lockdown came, so we started our tour in March. So we needed them for the 1st of March pretty much, which we did. We kind of got the mixes back song by song, and we were kind of virtually still recording as the mixes were coming back in, and it all worked out, didn't it?
Yeah. But it wasn't officially released when we took it. It was a pre-release album tour that we wanted to take, so that's why we wanted it ready for March. That's why we were scrambling.
We had a really good team. We had it mixed by a guy called Donald Richard, who was doing it in Canada. So he would like send us mixes in the middle of our night time, and we'd like wake up in the morning to his mixes. So yeah, our team was amazing. Like our producer, studio engineer Dave Boothroyd was incredible, and then we got it mastered really quickly as well by a chap called John Astley in London. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a case of teamwork makes the dream work. We're very lucky.
That would be the name of our next album.
No.
No one.
How about the first thoughts when the lockdown was on and the tour was cancelled? So what did you think about the situation, or can you go back to that day, or to think about what to do with the brand new CD or brand new, or you were supposed to be touring, and did you have meetings like emergency meetings, or what did you do? How did you handle the situation?
We met up every week, every Friday at 5 o'clock, and had a gin and tonic.
That's how we got through it.
On Zoom.
That's the Finnish way.
On Zoom.
Yeah, that's the Finnish way to resolve the problems. You know, just
Is it?
Yeah, a traditional one. Yes. More problems, more rules. Yeah.
Which also means more problems. It's just
Vicious cycle.
Exactly.
well, I guess because we were literally on tour together when it happened, it was a case of we went home and the rest of the gigs were, you know, just cancelled to be rescheduled. I think everyone was it was really shocking. Like, we just felt, it didn't sink in for me. Like, I mean, it barely still has, to be honest, but it took weeks, I think, for me to actually process what had happened, because it was just so sudden and so bizarre. If someone had told me at the start of that tour what was going to happen 2 weeks in, it's just, it was just so bizarre, so surreal. I think there was like a real sort of sense of camaraderie on the last couple of shows when things were starting to kick off, like, oh, you know, we're still coming out, we're still supporting live music, but then the attitude, rightly so, very quickly changed to, you know, it was absolutely not appropriate to be doing live shows and to be encouraging people to gather. So I just think the mood has shifted so quickly, and it's been a real kind of just a complete unknown roller coaster for everyone. But I think particularly in those early stages, like the way the musical community kind of came together in this like massive display of support, you know, the promoters, the venues, the artists, the fans, like everyone just kind of trying to help one another through it, and that's still the case. And I think that was really important to you know, particularly in those early stages when everyone was still kind of dealing with it, dealing with the shock of it. I think that was really amazing, the way everyone kind of came together, and it's amazing kind of community we've got, and I'm really thankful for it.
Yeah, these things take time, don't they, to sink in. Like, you can't expect people to process what's happened, really, even now, because it's just too much. And I think that's okay. And I think that, like, as a band, we didn't sort of rush into any massive decisions about how we were gonna navigate through it, or any like massive plans on what we were going to do as a band, because we were all just sort of more concerned about supporting each other personally through the changes that we were all facing, because we've all, obviously, like, as well as a band, we've all got other things in our life that were affected by it. So we were all just focusing on each other, really, weren't we? And then as time went on, we managed to do a few little collaborations, and you three went off to the Malvern Hills to do those sessions, which was really nice. So here we are. We're still here, aren't we?
Yes, for sure, and that's good. Let's go back to the music. Or what are your expectations or hopes? Or actually, sorry, I'll ask first about a philosophy or a thought. Do you have sort of a philosophy that you would like to express something with your music, or have sort of a theme, like what you handle with your music and the songs?
Do you want to take that, PD?
Me? Sure. I'll have a stab. I think that's a really interesting question. There's quite a lot to unpack there, but I guess, and probably everyone's going to have a slightly different response as well, but I think we're very kind of tied together and united by the fact that we're an all-female group. For me, and I think for the rest of the band as well, it's really amazing and really important to be making music in a group that is all women. There's a lot of problems for women in the music industry, and a lot of problems for the women in folk songs in the traditional canon as well. There's some pretty terrible tales. Women are at best, ignored, and at worst abused in lots of horrible ways. So I think it's really important to be able to stand on the stage as a group of four women, sing these traditional songs and say, look, this is how it used to be, and look how much has changed, and look how much it still needs to change. And we're kind of wanting to, I think our aim is to maybe construct a new narrative for women in folk music, both inside our songs and outside them as well. Powerful women united by themes that we all share, and experiences that are uniquely female, and kind of giving a voice to those who may have been voiceless in the past.
Oh no, guys, we are running out of time because it's like...
It just said it had been upgraded.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's been upgraded.
Good, thank you. Because this is actually a very important issue to us, for Mario and me, because like as a drummer, I've been experiencing the same, that I've been struggling in the music field a lot, and I've had to prove that I can do it, that I can really sit behind the drum kit. And I understand that this is a really long theme and deep theme, and we can't figure it out today. But I love your like concept of having all female band, and then having the message at the same time, and sharing the message. I think with us who are doing the same, that it's really important that there are women. And how do you see the situation in Britain at the moment, or in the whole like Great Britain, for female musicians? Do you know any percentages of the performers? How many percentages there are female musicians, and how many male musicians, or how do you see the genre at the moment, or the chances for female musicians, or the attitudes? A huge question, sorry, and I hadn't thought about it before. I didn't see that, but this
Holly,
topic
do you want
is
to say this?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the numbers up my sleeve, unfortunately. Although it's something that I kind of would like to look into, because I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think things are changing for the better, and festivals are working really hard at trying to get a kind of 50-50 lineup. And that's another reason it's interesting to know the numbers, because maybe women in some ways are advantaged if there's less of them and they're having to fill these 50-50 lineups. I don't know. So there's definitely movements being made, and there's a big kind of ongoing discussion at the moment in the UK folk community, as I think it is kind of internationally a bit at the moment, in terms of women in music and the way they're being treated. That's really positive. There's a lot of organisations that have kind of been set up recently to deal with that, and the Bit Collective is one of those in the UK, which is really an amazing organisation. So I think it's moving in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work to be done, as there is kind of, I guess, across the whole of society, not just in the music industry. And
yeah, I remember when we first started playing together. We would on our posters would be written all female quartet, like it was an achievement or something. Like we were defying something by being an all female 4-piece, which is kind of true, but it's there, like it's written in print, that even now in 2019, 2020, as 4 young women being in the same band together, it's something to be like shouted about. So yeah, I hope we get to the stage where it's just normal. Yeah. It's
always somehow emphasized that a female fiddle player, all-female band, a female drummer, and that's what makes it a bit odd. Like nobody says that male drummer comes upon to the stage now, so clap. So yeah, I understand what you guys mean. Yeah,
that's true.
So, but this is please.
Sorry. All I was going to say is that whilst there are a lot of problems, it's certainly, I feel like we all feel pretty positive about the situation in the country at the moment, and it's certainly the best. Now it's a better time than ever to be a female musician, right? So that's a good thing. Could be positive. For
sure, yeah. And I do think there's, as Holly's already mentioned, there's a massive amount of pressure, rightly so, on festivals to have a 50-50 representation, and that said, though, even in the last couple of years we've had people not bookers because they've already got a female folk band. I doubt they say that to the men, so yeah, there's definitely still work to be done, but as Bella says, it's moving in the right direction, for sure.
Yeah, and that's really good. The world changes slowly, but it changes, and that's good. Hey, still back to the music. What are your future hopes and expectations when you go towards the second album, the concept album? So what have you been thinking about it, and how would you like to carry on with the music?
So we are working on quite a bit of new material over lockdown. I think for me personally, we all have very eclectic influences, and although we kind of started out with we were mainly kind of blending Celtic and American traditional folk music and kind of reworking it and making doing our own thing with it. I think maybe going forwards, bringing in some of our more unusual influences and kind of showcasing those ideas a little bit more might be cool. I think for me, I've got a lot of Middle Eastern and Eastern European kind of folk and traditional music influences, as well as some Indian classical music and things like that. So you can kind of taste a little bit of that on Tidings, but I'd certainly like to kind of dive into that a little bit more, and keep trying to hone a new and contemporary folk sound.
Yeah, I think we've all got new things to bring to album too, haven't we? Sort of more experimental things, our own original compositions. So yeah, it's exciting, something to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of expectations, we think it'll probably go triple platinum.
Obviously.
Looking forward to the Grammy.
Got a spot saved on the mantelpiece already.
But it's so difficult to plan at the moment, though, isn't it? With coronavirus, this is something that is a struggle for everyone. But knowing when everything's going to be back up and how it's going to fit into life is something that it's hard to think about just yet.
In the commercial sense, yeah.
Yeah.
In a business sense, it is, I guess. Yeah. But maybe this is just the time that we're all just going to write the most amazing music, and we don't need to worry about the business side of things just now. We can just go for it, go wild.
I think it's certainly a really interesting. I mean, obviously it's a terrifying time to be a creative and a musician, but it's also a really interesting time to be a creative and a musician, partly because we've been blessed with a wealth of time that we don't normally have due to tours being suspended and things like that. But I also think in the darkest of times is often some really interesting artistic kind of responses can come out the other side of it. We're dealing with something that is unprecedented. Obviously you've heard that word a lot, but kind of no other word for it. So I think as an artistic community, I think our job is to react to what's going on in the world and to the experiences that we're all sharing and that are all brand new. So I'm actually really excited, both in terms of the music that we're creating and in terms of the music that our friends and colleagues are creating, because I think there's going to be some really amazing, deep, kind of urgent work coming out the other side of this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it sounds and how it looks.
Yes. And the last thing, what would you like to say to your fans at this moment? The last sentence, the take-home message that I can cut, really in a very cool way to the end of the interview, What could that be?
What should that be?
I mean, thank you thank you for carrying on supporting us. It means a lot because as self-employed musicians, it's been a very unamped time, and to know that we've got people who are enjoying our album, and we've had some nice reviews come in, so it's it's given us the boost that we've often needed, I think, over this time.
Yeah.
And one more question.
Sorry, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay, just take your if you want to start to talk, so I'll give you room for that. One more question concerning your music. How do you this is a really wide question, but anyway, how would you describe that you break the borders and the traditional lines in your music at the moment? Because anyway, your music is folk, and then you use really like a wide range of different instruments, and you have really like traditional folk influences. So is there any way to describe it with spoken words, how you break the boundaries, or how you widen the box of being of playing folk music? You know what I mean? Sorry.
Yeah,
I guess
we might all have something to say on this, but I'll just say a little thing. Yeah, I suppose I think it's really important to remember that folk music should be a really broad and all, it should encompass many, and sorry, and I'm just going to start that again because I kind of waffled that a little bit. Take two. Yeah, I think the thing with folk music is it should be a really broad genre, which kind of brings in loads of influences, a really kind of eclectic platter of music and of stories, because it is essentially just storytelling. As contemporary folk musicians, we are telling stories, whether that's in our instrumentals, which I actually do write my instrumentals with kind of a narrative in mind. Maybe that's just me being weird, but it is the way I compose instrumentals as well as songs. So I suppose this idea of folk music being like this or being that, I think it's really important to bust that open and remind people that actually folk music is just the narrative of many generations, and a voice to whatever's going on right now in the world. And I think it's really important to remember that. And yeah, I think hopefully we're going to remind people of that with our album and with our music. Anyone else got anything to add to that? Didn't come out quite as well as I hoped it would.
It was great. I think it was good.
Oh, by the way, you must edit that bit out.
Yes.
I was just thinking there about me and Holly. From a stylistic point of view, we're both classically trained string players. So we went through quite a sort of full-on strict sort of education in a certain classical style throughout our school years, because that's just what is taught in schools over here. It's sort of like the default setting, isn't it? And then we've both crossed over into playing with folk bands or singer-songwriters of varying genres, and playing by ear. So it's sort of, for us, it's a blend of what we've learned and what we've picked up in the folk scene as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was always more of the folk scene. I had both going on kind of at the same time, so I was learning by ear like folk tunes and going to folk festivals and things like that. But so I feel like that was kind of more prominent, but it definitely kind of, it was interesting. They influenced each other, those two styles.
Great.
Stella?
Good ideas. Yeah, good thoughts. Yeah.
I'm thoughtless.
You thoughtless?
No,
I don't have any
not at all.
thoughts.
Anything comes up to your mind still? You want to some stories about the music, something to say about the music, something to say about anything? Or do you think that we're done?
That's pretty much.
I guess it's worth mentioning, if you want a bit of trivia about the instruments that we play on Rock of Ages, which is our cover of a Gillian Welsh song. I'm playing 5-string banjo, and I'm playing what's called clawhammer banjo, which is an American, is a traditional American style of playing it. It's also called frailing. It's a really rhythmic style, and it's a really unique right hand position. So for the instrument nerds out there, you can expect clawhammer banjo, and you can also hear the Irish bouzouki, which is a really cool instrument that came from the Greek bouzouki, and kind of got brought over to Ireland and turned into a Celtic instrument really quite recently, in the 50s and 60s. So yeah, playing Irish bouzouki on a few of the tracks as well, and then I'm playing mandolin on everything else.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
Just some trivia.
Can I just
Trivia
say,
is good.
frailing is not to be confused, as some people often do, with flailing.
What is
that?
failing like?
Well, flailing is in what Bella just did,
Flailing around.
but also flailing is in a machine on the end of a tractor which flings up all the meadow grass. Because my parents actually rewilded our meadow the other day with wildflower seeds, and I got sent a picture saying that this is the flailing, and I did get confused because I was like, isn't that what Polly does on the banjo?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds quite similar, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just picking up grass.
Cool. Maybe
Thought I'd
next
add that
time.
nugget in.
And if Polly, she's not able to enter the studio, so then you have to call your parents. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll just get the flailer in.
Yeah. Exactly.